Alright, so how do you replace NAs and zeros in your R programming? Okay, so let me quickly right, so let's see, how do we replace our NAs? For instance, you can have a data set and you're going to see some plenty NAs like this, or you can have some zeros somewhere where you actually didn't plan to have any zero. For instance, I could just maybe have some data set of ages of people that I have collected before I realized, those ages was collected as 0. There's no way somebody is going to be 0 years. It means the person is not alive. So when you have data and then you have those kind of like zeros, or how do you replace them? Or if you have NAs not available, how do you replace them? Yeah, so I'm going to show us the 9 simple ways to be able to do that as quickly as possible. So let me roll up a little bit, not to waste your time. So I'm first of all going to create some kind of I'm going to create a data frame. So I have my data frame here. So I call the data frame, let's say like this TT. So I'm just using it at once. So I have my data frame of, let's say there are 3 columns, or let's say 3 variables, and then about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5 observations or 5 entries. So that's the data frame there. So if I should run this data frame like this, okay, let me just pull up a little bit. If I should print the data frame, you're going to see that. So we have, let's say this is somebody's thesis. That's why I put it TT there. And this is the number of pages, number of characters, and the word count. So you notice that there are some zeros here. So you cannot say that we have some 0 pages here. It's not possible. Then we have chapters. Can we say that we have some 0 chapters here? No. You can see there's 0, 0 around here. So we want to replace those zeros in all of them. We want to replace them with, let's say, not available. So it makes sense to say what those pages are not available for you to say that they don't exist. There's a difference between NA and then 0. NA means the thing was not there. It was not available. So I came to interview you and you were not available. I'll put the NA. I cannot put 0. But if I came to interview you and then you refuse to talk, I will put the 0. That means you were there, you were available, but you did not provide answers. So that's what it means. But how do I replace this? One of the first example is you can actually replace all of them by using a simple technique. The technique is like, so I'm going to be demonstrating whilst I do that. The technique is like, let's say you have your data set and the data frame. Let's say you have a data frame like this. You see, when you put this curly bracket, it means that you are trying to find an index within that particular data frame. You want to find an index. Okay. So now, when you put the same data frame as the index, now you are going to print the entire data. What is the data frame? Now, when you put 2 equal sign, you are saying that you are looking for something within this data frame that is the same as whatever you're going to put after the 2 equal signs. So if I put 2, I am saying that look inside this particular data frame as an index. Anything you find which is 5 is what I am looking for. Print that thing out. And that's what that means. Alright? So that's what we're saying here. So first of all, we can actually replace all the zeros with NA. So we've seen zeros here, but no, we don't want to say 0. We want to replace them with. So the first example is replace all columns. So we are replacing everything. So we're not selecting. So in that case, I have to choose the name of the data frame, which is in this case my TT, which I've already printed. That's thesis. And so I put my TT, then and I come here, then I just put in this curly bracket the index. But instead of just putting the index as a number, I decided to say that I want an index which is the same as 0. And when I get that particular index, I can print it out. So for instance, if I should hashtag, if I should comment out whatever is there and I run this line, it's going to go into the data set and print anything that is 0. So let me run it and you see. So you see that it prints only what? 0, 0, 0. Okay. So if I put over there and I say go into the data set and print anything 4, it's going to print all the 4s. over there. You see that it print how many 4s do we have? There are about let's say 2 of them down here. That is how it is. It gives you the opportunity to, I mean, it's a way of subsetting. But in this case, we are saying that now there's a 0 there, and we are not going to print that 0 out, but we are saying that replace that particular 0 with NA not available. So how do we do that? We will make sure that that particular index become a variable, and then that variable we are creating, we are giving it a value, and that value is NA, and that's what we have done here. So I just run this, and so now if I print what is it, the data frame again, you will no longer see the zeros. Like you see that the first one we were seeing 0 0 around here. You see, we're seeing zeros over there. The zeros have been replaced with NA, NA, and NA. I mean, we could have replace it with any other thing. Maybe let's try something and say we wanted to replace it with, let's say, 5. I'm just trying to see whether it will work. So let me print it again, and so you notice that wherever. So no, it doesn't replace. It did not replace. So, but let me try and say whether if I could replace it with, let's say, a character. Let's say wanted to replace it with, let's say, A. So I will try it and see whether. Okay, now I get it. I needed to have the first part. Okay, let me put the 55 again. I'm coming here, run it again. Come and run this. You see that I have 0 0. So let me try and see if I can replace all the zeros with 55. Print that character again. So you see that everything has been replaced. So it's not just the NAs alone, but you can actually replace it with any value at all. We are replacing the entire thing. So this is how we replace the entire. If you have a whole lot of data and you want to replace a specific value there with, another value, then you could actually do that. Okay. Now this 0 here could have been a character. If it were a character, we have to indicate that it's a character. Yeah, along the tutorials, I will show us how to do that. That's the first way to be able to do that. Now, another way, second way of, we can also replace a selected column. Possibly, sorry about the spelling here. Possibly, we may not be interested in replacing everything there. Maybe we just want to replace only in one column and leave the others. So, let me run the data again. You should understand why I'm running again, because if I don't run, because I'm using the same variable name, if I don't run it again, we will not be able to. In R follows the sequence of running. When you run and create a variable, that variable is there. If you don't run it again, that variable become active, and so that's why if I run it again, it replaces the old variable. So now you can see that the 0 zeros are back again. Now, but in this case, I want to replace the zeros in only one column, in one of the column, the first column, which is what? Pages. So to do that, you simply have your data frame and then say that, okay, within that particular data frame, I am selecting only pages as an index. And then when I select that particular pages as an index, I think this is the syntax. Then I will come here again and co-select it again as pages, which is equal to 0. And I'll replace it with what? NA. So I'm simply going to the pages, and then I'm going to do this. This is a long process. I'll get to the shorter one, and then you see. So if I do that, if I run it again, and then I go to print the TT again, you will notice that it has been replaced with NAs. The same way, we could have also replaced it with any other value. Now, our third example is we can actually also, okay, so if I print that again, you will see that the zeros are back again. Now in this case, we are going to use a negation. Negation simply means you say that, okay, if this is around, remove it, or if this is there, change it into something else, or if it is not there, then what is it? Bring it there. If it is there, bring it there, or if it is not there, don't bring it, and in that order. It's negation. Now, what do we do? Here I said is .NA. I'm simply asking a question whether there's an NA in this particular data frame. In this data frame I have created here, is there what is it? I'm looking for NA in it. So if I should comment out this and run that line, it's going to give me a boolean, true or false. So I'm going to run that. You see that false, false, false. There's no NA in it. Okay? There's no NA in it. Alright, so if I remove this, and I'm saying that, okay, if there is no NA in it, but I am saying that in that case, go ahead and then bring NA, because the negative of no NA means there should be NA, and that's what we have done here. This exclamation mark means that the negative of the statement I have here, and the statement I have here says there is no NA. So the statement here is not saying that what is it? There is NA there. Yes, come in. And then when I do that, it's gone. It's some few minutes ago.
Have you started raining?
No, he left before the rain started.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So sorry for that interruption. So what we're going to do is, if I do that, then I am going to introduce the NAs inside there. I know the question that was supposed to. So you see that NAs have been introduced. Okay. That's another way of replacing, or actually replacing zeros with NA. Now, by default, NAs always replace zeros. Alright, so that's what happens here. So it's NA into the data frame, and then you say you negate it, then it will simply go and replace zeros. It will replace any other figure. Okay, that's about it. Now, our fourth example, let me run this again. And so we have our data frame again. In this case, we are going to use a function in R called replace. Replace. So in that case, you need to create a variable. So this variable I call here thesis. I don't mind the spelling. So I'm saying using the replace function. So you replace what? You bring the data frame name, which is TT, and then within that particular data frame, I am replacing what? 0. I am checking inside that data frame anything that is the same as 0. Replace it with what? NA. Like I keep saying, you could have also changed the NA into something. You could have been replace it with K. Replace it with if you want to replace it with a character, you have to put the character in quotes. Let's say replace it with big. So I'll put it this way, big. You see? So if I run that and then I print thesis, wherever there were zeros, you will now see big inside. So you see big, 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 and that's how we do the replacement. Now, the fifth example is, let me create my data frame again. Alright, so I'm just going to do this, and then if I create a data frame again, you can see that it is still down there. Now in this fifth example, we are replacing using a package called dplyr. Dplyr package. So what do? I have to load the package first into R. So I just library it and load it. And in that case, I will just simply, in dplyr is the simplest way of replacing your zeros with, or replacing one character or one variable with another. So in that case, I am just saying that NA if. What I'm simply saying is that replace anything inside this particular bracket. So NA if is a function, and that function will check inside this bracket, and whatever that comes, and so it will look inside the bracket. The first entry or observation or argument is the data set. And then within that data set, what are you going to replace with NA? 0. So we are saying that check inside this data set. If it is 0, replace it with one NA. That's what this function means. So if you run it, and then it's going to this particular function, variable. If I print that variable, you see that it will replace everything with NA. And like I say, you can also, it could also be something else. You could have said replace, let's say, a value like 4 or something, which is formed within the data frame, and it will do that as usual. Now, our sixth example is when we are replacing using the same dplyr, but in this case we are going to use a different function called mutate. Mutate has a lot of functions. If you want to know the many mutate functions, you can simply just do question mark mutate. You just do a question mark like this, question mark, and then you say mutate, which is already there. So it's going to give you a whole lot. Come here and you can see all that you can use mutate for. Alright? Mutate is just like a way of like cleaning your data up using the dplyr package. So it's raining here, and that is why the weather is like that, or the noise is coming from the background. So the dplyr function is already loaded, so I'm not going to run that again. So for the mutate function, you create a variable, this variable here, and first of all, what are we going to do? We look for the data frame, which is tt, and then we simply pipe. This is the pipe operator. We pipe out, we are picking an information from this data frame, and that's what we are saying. What information are we picking from there? We are picking all, we are mutating all. So we are picking all the information here, and we are going to mutate. And then what are we mutating? We are saying that is if it is NA, we should replace it with what? 0. This dot means in this current particular directory, or this particular current folder in which we are mutating. And that's the syntax. So if I do that, if I run it, and then I print the data frame, you will find that it has been replaced with NAs. And as usual, you could replace it with any other thing, and that's how it is. Now our 7th example is one we are going to replace in such a way that if it is a numeric, I'll explain that pretty soon. I'm not going to library my dplyr again. I've already done that. Now in this case, I will have to create a variable and then say that, okay, I have my data frame here, so I'm going to pipe some value from the data frame and then mutate it if that particular value is a numeric value. And then what am I going to replace it with NA? So this is the function of NA. So we are saying that if it is if whatever is found in this particular bracket is 0, replace it with NA. If it is 0 and it is found in the current folder, which is where we are now, that's why we put the dot here. The dot, it means if it is found within, it could have been found in the folder other than where we are. And then in that case we won't put just one dot like that. And then that is what we are doing here. So when we do that and we run it, it will simply go and then replace them like that. But the reason why we put here numeric is that the 0 we are going to replace is not a character. There are instances you could have zeros, and those zeros are characters. For instance, if you decide to create 1 and 0 in Excel, you save it as a CSV file and you import it into R. R sees all the zeros as characters. So in that case, when you're going to replace those kind of zeros, you have to specify that it's a character. So when you're using this function, I would have said is character, so that the function will go there and look for it, even though it will look like 0, but it will be a character. And then in that case, you replace it with NAs, and that's how it is. Okay. Or you could have also replaced the same character with a 0 or whatsoever. Okay. And that's what we have done here. So if we go out and then we run it, you see that it will replace it just like that. Now the very last one, or the second but last, is we want to replace on a selected column, just like we did first, but in this case we are going to use the dplyr function, dplyr package, using the mutate function to be able to do that kind of replacement. Just like the way we were able to select just one page and then we do that, here we can also do the same thing. So here in the same way we do our pipe operator, then we mutate at what? At a specific column, and in that case you use the combine function to locate that particular column. So we are using C and we are looking at this particular column here, the last column, and we are going to replace the NAs if that particular column contains this character or this observation called 0. So when you run it, it's going to replace only that particular column. You won't find the last column. Oh, but I think I should have run this too before I come to run this. Alright, so now if I come and run this, then you see that the last column, which is here, is actually being replaced. The rest remain intact. And then the last one is The last one is not too different. Here we have to use the column name, but the last one we are going to use the column index. So here the column index, the 2 means the second column, that's the chapters, and so we are going to replace only the second column, but that's why we put there 2. So if I had run this first, this, if I come and I run this one, you see that only the second column has been replaced, the rest remain intact. So this is how we are able to do a lot of replacement. There is so much noise now, I am unable to continue. So I would have shown us how to be able to replace more than one observation or more than one argument at the same time. It's just a matter of using C here, using a C, and then we are able to do that. Okay, so that's all that I have today by way of my video of today, and then by way of my art tutorials. Please, if you love what I do, subscribe to my YouTube channel and then continue to be a follower, and also share it on your platforms for other people to get to learn. Thank you.